Mental analysis, I've shared the videos long ago, but there are some things that I wish that you should know. Okay. So when you look in the book in this chapter, it says what the aim of this module. Okay, so before we continue, I owe you some videos, right? Because of
Yes, please.
it hasn't been able to convert. I'm now converting them. I'm now trying to convert it. This is it. You can see it's
Okay.
converting.
Yes, please.
Converting them. And also I have some videos on gearing and ratios. I'll add it to it and then send it.
Okay.
But there's one thing I want you to look at very carefully. I want you, when you watch the video, I've covered, it was a management accounting class, right? But then I've covered operating gearing, which you need for your exam, finance gearing, combined gearing, and also I've been able to talk about the ratios, profitability, liquidity, efficiency, working capital cycle, and then gearing, and also leverage. And also I talked about divisional performance using ROI, return on investment, and residual income. Is that okay? So make sure that you watch those videos very well and practice, okay? And practice. Now, we are going to do environmental analysis, and environmental analysis is a key area in your syllabus. But then the approach I'm going to take to teach you environmental analysis is quite different from what you know. Is that okay? So I'm going to teach you the way the examiner wants us to be doing what? The PESTEL and the 5 forces. Is that okay? If you know it like that, then I don't think you should have any problem when these things do pop up. I hope that makes sense.
Yes, please.
Oh, I'm looking for my cases. I can't find them. So that we play around with them. Okay. Now it is saying that what the aim of this module is to enable students to understand and apply tools and models to develop skills in strategic analysis, choice and implementation, and evaluation. Students will become competent in the use of management information. You see, everything is using financial and non-financial information. Okay, so when you hear management information, we are talking about both financial and non-financial information, right? We are going to use this to measure and monitor strategic performance. So it seems people look at PESTEL, 5 forces, and all those models in a different way. Well, I look at them as models of performance to know how you are performing environmentally and to help us what? Through our performance, to help us identify opportunities and threats. So sometimes using these models, it can help us, are you getting it? Attach this to our financial appraisal. You remember last week when I was teaching you about the financial appraisal, I was telling you that you have to link it with the numbers. Who remembers? Who remembers? That I told you that anytime you are doing analysis, PESTEL, 5 forces, SWOT, you have to link the numbers if only financials have been given. Who remembers I said this?
Yes, you said that.
Yes. So when you are doing analysis, what will set you apart from other students who are doing the same analysis is your answers should become what? Good enough. So the reason why people are failing case studies, sometimes before I thought it was the knowledge. By saying that people have the adequate knowledge, they've gone to classes, but it seems so many tutors haven't been solving cases with them. They teach them theory, last minute, then they start taking cases, which is a wrong approach. You see, almost every time I take a case for us to deal with, right? So that you have an idea about how to apply these concepts. And now I'm going to really teach you how to answer. The answering, how you write your answers are very important. Instead of listing, never list, right? Explain a little, at least throw some small light on it. You get the idea. That's what we want to know. Now, it is telling us that you become competent in the use of management information to measure and monitor strategic performance. A comprehensive review will be undertaken of good governance practice, all developed within applicable ethical frameworks. I know by now you guys, at least you know governance, right? You know the approaches to governance, you know the principles of governance, you know the code of best practice, you know all that, right? It says, well, evaluating complex scenarios will be a feature of the model. So that means there may be complex scenarios which you have to deal with based on complex data, financial and stakeholder analysis, including making what? Recommendations. This is another thing he hinted. So he's saying that, yes, a lot of you answer questions, maybe identify internal control weaknesses in the case. Yes, you've been able to identify, or you see opportunities and threats, or you see declining liquidity ratios, whatever you see, but you do not give recommendations, right? Now, this is what he wants. Being able to what? Give recommendations as to how to improve the situation at hand. This is what the examiner is actually what? Looking for. Are you getting it? So you will be required to apply concept, principles, and theories from your earlier studies. Okay, so the principles you learned in financial reporting, you learned in management accounting, decision making, right, are all applied here. Do you understand? So this is something that I urge you all to keep in mind. Is that okay? So upon the discussions we had, I will give you some tricks and techniques to help us understand. Now, when you look at the detailed syllabus reference B says that what? We should be able to prepare an advice on the strategic analysis for a specified scenario by evaluating external and internal environments to support strategy what? Development. So before you develop your strategy, you know that before you develop a strategy, right, you should know where you are first, whether you have the necessary resources to pursue that strategy, whether there are some opportunities in the environment that you can take advantage of with that strategy, right? So you don't just go look at a company which is in a very changing environment, right? The environment keeps changing. Then this guy decides to pursue a stability strategy, meaning pause and proceed with caution. Do you think this is going to work?
Not at all. Not at all.
No.
It won't work, right? That is why we do environmental analysis to know where we are now. What is our position? When I say position, I'm talking about opportunity, strengths, weaknesses, and strengths, right? Together with our financial performance and position. Always, when people talk about SWOT or financial strategic position, they forget to talk about the financial side. Now, look, I have looked at my internal resources and competencies. Remember, resources, doesn't it include money? Doesn't it include finance? Do your resources not include finance?
Yes,
Yes,
it's
So if I have a declining liquidity ratio, what does it tell me? What does it tell me? It means my finance is dropping, right? I cannot pay my current liabilities. I am not liquid enough. Is this not a weakness?
yeah, it is.
Yes, so this is how I want you to talk in the exam. Give proof. The examiner today, after my meeting with him, he's saying that your answers are not good enough. It's not that people do not pass, they do not know the thing, but their answers are just not good enough. That is why case study has the lowest failure rate. And he's telling me, I don't want to scare you, but some of the things he was saying, Charlie, it is better we pass now because next diet and the following diet, the syllabus is going to be changed. And what they are bringing, Charlie, the way people are going to fail is going to be massive because that one is an open paper, meaning anything goes. They can ask you economics. If you haven't learned economics, they don't care. They can ask you law, anything. That means they are consolidating everything that was learned from level 1 to level 3 into one paper. And that is your final paper. So I am pleading with you guys, set your mind that this diet, you are going to get it once and for all. Because if you do not get it this diet, there's no guarantee that the subsequent diet, even if you get it, it will require a lot of work. If you are putting in an hour now, you'll be required to put in 5. That's what he said. So I hope we are all going to make our mind one and pass together as a family so that we let all the stress go away. Because if you can spare 1 hour, and I know some of you are not even making 5 hours a week to study, and he's saying that hour will be what? That times 5, meaning you need additional 25 hours to be able to pass that paper. So imagine, if you are still in the same position, your work, stress, going here, going there, you're not able to study, I beg you, start putting in the effort, because the way they are coming to reshuffle, because employers are now saying that chartered accountants who come on the market are not competent enough. Two, is like they are more theoretical, there's no practicality in the work they do. Three, they do not have adequate resources. They are poor in IT. So most of your answers, most of the questions now will be more IT related to, bridge that IT gap a lot of Ghanaians or a lot of accountants are facing. That is why I'm very concerned that you pass this paper now and now. Please, I hope that makes sense to everyone. I hope we are all going to make it.
Yes.
Because I
Yes.
Yes.
want you to go and come back. Because next night, the approach will change completely. It will be a different ball game altogether. Now, students will be doing more of the work. Now, the exam context. It is telling us that this chapter should focus on analyzing the business external environment. The environmental analysis assists management in identifying opportunities and threats for their business. And the two key models for environmental analysis are PESTEL and Porter's Diamond. Now, the way the ICA book looks at this means it looks at the broad environment, which is the global environment and the intermediate or the general environment in our country. So if I'm looking at business environment, I'll look at business environment like this. So this is the global environment where every country is there, right? So you have USA, you have Canada, you have China, and also all other countries, Nigeria, then let's say you have Ghana and also. And then when I come within Ghana, I get it. The environment in Ghana is the general environment or the macro environment which everybody is affected. Now, when I come within that environment is the industry, true or false? Are various industries, true or false?
Yeah, true.
And then
True.
within the industries are organizations, true or false? So we are saying that
True.
government should start from the global environment, come to what? Even within the global environment, there are countries, right? A distinct country has its own economic environment, right? Where inflation and things happen, it has its own political environment. Ghana has all these, true or false? And this is what we call the
True.
macro or general environment or the conceptual environment. You get to me? Then within Ghana itself, there are industries, okay? And that is the industrial environment. Then within the organization, we have the organizational environment, which is the internal environment, okay? So this is how I look at organizational environment, okay? So we have the global environment where most of the time we prefer use what? Porter's Diamond to analyze this, okay? So we use Porter's Diamond. The general environment, we use PESTEL, okay, as a model to evaluate this environment. Then the industry, we assess two things. Because within your industry is where you have your distinct market and your customers, true or false? So here, we use what? Porter's what? 5 forces, because there are some forces which tell us whether what? Your industry is a successful one at making profits, or your industry is a weak one at making profit. Because you have your distinct markets here, we can also analyze your market, right? Your market and your product. And analyzing your market and your product, we can use things like what? The industry or product life cycle, okay? To look at how your products perform over their life cycle. We can also use what? Portfolio models, okay? Can also use some portfolio models. Though portfolio models tell strategies, we can use this to analyze our markets, how you get in it, to tell how things are going. So if you know environmental analysis like this, then I don't think you are going to have a problem, because within your organization, we need to know our resources and our competencies, right? Which will then translate to strengths and weaknesses. But everything within the external environment will translate to what? Opportunities and what? And threats. So if you put them together, you see you have strengths and weaknesses from the organization, internal and also, and then from external, you have what? Opportunities and threats from the external environment. We match these two together and we end up with what? A SWOT analysis. I hope that makes sense. That is why the business should be doing this. And as part of this analysis, it will be recommended that you do a stakeholder appraisal to accept or reject your position. Does that make sense? I hope this makes adequate sense. Does that make sense? So I hope by now you know every environment and the particular models you're expected to use. True or false? Can we dive deep? Can we dive into it? Hello? You are writing. Can we go or you are writing? Nobody is giving me a response.
We can go on.
We can go on.
So we are looking at the nature of environmental analysis. We all know that a business entity cannot exist in isolation from its environment, and it interrelates with its environment, and its survival and strategic success will depend on how well it responds to the threats and opportunities that the environment provides. An entity's environment is anything that is not part of the entity itself. For a business organization, the environment includes your customers, your potential customers, your markets, competitors, suppliers, government, and potential sources of new employees. It also includes the social, political, and economic environment in which the entity exists and operates. So the term macro environment, which I explained earlier, right, is used to mean the general factors in the business environment of an entity rather than specific customers, suppliers, and competitors. So environmental influences on an organization vary with the size of the organization and the industry and the countries in which it operates. So you see, all these influences, you can see, it starts with the size of the organization, which is what you are, looks at your industry, your immediate environment, or your competition, or your competitive environment. Look at the countries in which you operate, the global environment. Are we okay? So the importance of environmental factors for strategic management arises because we need to operate within a particular environment and interact with it. Products will change, people will change, taste and fashion will change, right? Also, we need to understand this because what? The changes in the environment can be large and significant, and it can happen continuously. And because this can happen continuously, there's a need for you to adapt to and know your environment. Future changes can be very difficult to predict, so it is better you know it now before the change happens. I hope that is okay. This is the reason why we need to understand our business environment. Also, let's look at the purpose of environmental analysis. Environmental analysis is a part of the process of assessing strategic position. In order to make strategic choices about the future, the management of an entity need to understand what factors in the environment have significant effects on the entity and what it does. I get it. So you are working within an environment. You know that definitely when fuel prices change, it's going to affect your cost of operations. True or false? You know that when the government change, because of the kind of activity, the activity you are doing, you need to import more. Government may restrict what? The importation, right? So you know that this is going to affect. That is why you need to understand what? Stakeholders. Remember, government is also a stakeholder, right? So you are saying that, okay, how do stakeholders play a key role in affecting my environment? For instance, now you are saying that, okay, I want to manufacture rubber-related product. How is it going to affect the EPA? How will the government be concerned about this? How will the general community be concerned about you making this rubber product? Are they safe? Are you going to damage the environment? What responsibilities do you have towards them? And how do you manage these stakeholders? I hope that makes sense. So you see how these things play together. So when you are answering questions, you need to find a way to merge them, to sort of chip in some of these things, look at their position, whether they are opposing or they are supporting your strategies, and how important they are within the business environment. I hope that makes sense. So we need to know factors which are affecting us significantly. We also need to know things that are bringing the change, which are key drivers of change. And these are the factors in the environment that will have the greatest effect on the entity and force the entity to change its strategies in order to survive and succeed. So if you are going to change, then there are some things which will push you to change, and those are the drivers of change. Are we okay? Also, we need to know the difference in impact that these drivers of change will have on different industries and different markets, or how changes in the environment might affect what? One particular entity more or less than other entity. So you might be in the same industry, right? but one particular change, it may be an economic factor or an environmental factor, can affect some of you differently. Who agrees? Who can give an example? We are in the same industry, but some change in the environment can affect me differently and affect you differently. Who can give me an example? Yes? Where people are in the same industry, I get it. But something that happens in the environment can affect this one differently and affect this one in this company differently. Who can give me an example? The class is supposed to be interactive, but people are quiet. Give me some 1 minute. Let me get some water. Now, we may be in the same industry, right? Now we are in the rainy season. Assuming we are all farmers, for instance, and there are very heavy rain. Some people may be affected in a different way. Who agrees to this? Who agrees to it? Who agrees to this? Okay, since nobody is talking, I don't know. Okay, sure. Now we have to look at some two models for environmental analysis first, which is a broader environment, right? The macro and the global environment. Now, in your examination, listen, it is telling you, it is giving you exam support. Okay, this is what is very important. In your examination, you might be required to carry out an environmental analysis with the use of any model of your choice. Alternatively, you might be asked to specifically use what? PESTEL or Porter's what? Diamond. You see, the examiner is giving you a tip. He's saying that sometimes they can ask you to use what? Do an environmental analysis. And that would mean that you can choose any model of what? Any model of your choice, meaning that you can decide to use PESTEL if you want. You can decide to use what? Diamond if you want. You can decide to use 5 forces or whatever. Are you getting it? So it depends on what you may be asked. But sometimes they can ask you to use PESTEL or Porter's Diamond. So PESTEL will be used to identify significant factors in the macro environment, and Porter's Diamond is used to analyze reasons why entities in particular countries or regions within a country appear to have a significant what? Competitive advantage over similar entities in the same industry, but operating in other countries or regions. Okay, so this one tells how a particular industry is successful and has created success for other people in other countries or other regions within the same country. So, in simple terms, this model, which you call Porter's Diamond, identifies ways which an organization can boost or how an organization can have national or regional. When I say national, I mean cross-country. When I say regional, it means within the same country but across multiple regions. No, so regional competitive advantage. Are we okay? Your ability to do things where suppliers cannot do or cannot copy. Is that okay? And this model is very important for your exam, this particular diet. Okay, so we are going to look at PESTEL itself. PESTEL analysis is a structured approach to analyzing the external environment of an entity. The influences, which are current influences and possible future influences on the environment, on the entity, are grouped into categories. For each category of environmental influence, the main influences are identified. So there are 6 categories of environmental influence. So we have different parts or different factors. So we have the political environment, which has political factors, economic environment, social and cultural environment, technological environment, ecological or environmental factors. Then we have legal environment. Now, the purpose of dividing environmental influences into categories is simply to make it easier to organize your environmental analysis and ensure that some key influences are not overlooked. Okay, that is the reason why we group them. If not, in the exam, if you're able to just identify any factor and talk about it, even without categorizing it, they will still give you the answer. The reason why we group them is so that we do not forget some factors. Is that okay? Now, this model provides a useful framework for analysis. Now, you may also be asked to use references, I get it, to SLEPT analysis and PEST analysis. They are all what, variations of SWOT, sociocultural, legal, ecological, or economic, political, and technological, right? It could be PEST, it could be SLEPT. Some people make it STEEPLE, PESTEL, SLEPT. There are a lot of them, right? TPO, a lot. So it depends on how they rearrange them. It's not a rearrangement of PESTEL with some factors. So these are similar to PESTEL in concept, but use a smaller number of environmental categories, right? So PEST means it talks about only 4, but PESTEL talks about 6. This one also talks about only 5. You get the idea. Okay. Now, SLEPT analysis uses the same categories of environmental influence as PESTEL, but without the ecological influence. It doesn't look at the environmental factors like climate change, choked gutters, COVID, and other things, right? And PEST analysis is the same as SLEPT and also, but it includes political influences and the legal environment in the same category. Are we okay? So there are various variations of PESTEL, depending on which you are asked. You just have to ignore some other factors which you do not need. So we look at the political environment. It consists of political factors. The reason why I'm looking at this is that students don't know how to categorize this very well. And a lot of students identify these factors and just list them. We do not list in PESTEL. We do not list. I told you to ask yourself some questions, right? What has happened? The first question is what has happened? Why do you think it's happening? When or how did it happen? Also, so what is the implication? Okay, so when I say what is the implication, I mean what is the implication on your revenue or costs or cash flows or going concern, right? And at the end of the day, is it a threat or an opportunity? This is how all your questions should look like. All your answers should look like this. What has happened? There's been a change in the current government. Why? Because of the because of the current election, this guy has lost. When or how did it happen? It happened during the maybe June during that year. So what is the implication? The new government does not like what? Maybe the new government does not like multinational companies. And since the organization we are dealing with in question is a multinational, are you getting it? He may be driven out of the country, which will make us lose significant cash flows. Therefore, this is a threat to the organization's success or survival. If you write this, is it not a good idea? Is it not a good point? The point I raised, is it not a good point?
Yes, it is.
It is.
So note, sometimes the when and how you may not identify, right? But one thing I want you to identify is what? What is happening and why it matters to the organization and the implication. Are we okay? For instance, if I tell you that customers have a high bargaining power, That is what is happening, right? Why is it a problem? Why is a high bargaining power for customers a problem to the organization? Because any price they quote, you have to accept their prices. And accepting customers' prices may lower your profits. True or false?
True.
True. This is what we want to see. And therefore, is this a threat or is an opportunity?
It's a threat.
That's always how you have to end. Are we okay? I'm teaching you how to answer the question. Now, let's look at the things that you have to see to identify as political, though these are not exhaustive. The stability of the political system in particular countries. So if within the case, they tell you that you have a stable political environment, let's see whether we can deduce some points for this. Assuming we saw this in a scenario, stability of the political system, yes? This is what, right? This is the first question. What has happened? Or what have they told us? That the economic system or the political system is what? Stable. Why? Yes, give me the why. Why is the political system in Ghana stable? Or would you consider a political system stable?
We have peaceful elections.
Peaceful elections. Nice. Okay, I'll take that. When or how will not be required here. So what is the implication for the organization in question? I told you when it comes to implication, look at how it affects what? Revenue, cost, profit, cash flows, right? Or going concern, and end with whether it's an opportunity or what? A threat. Always this should be the approach. So my question is, how does stability of the political system affect us, right? So, what is the impact on profit, cost, and
You can plan your business activities.
okay. It may lead to effective what? Planning of the business activities. Since there are no wars, people can purchase peacefully, right?
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, because of the stable political system, businesses will not be closed down, and therefore we have what? Avenues to do proper business, which can therefore increase our profit potential. Meboa. Therefore, this is a good opportunity to what? To do business. Because countries with wars, you cannot even open stores. How much more sell? True or false? So the stable political system, which is neither autocratic, neither military regime, is good for us to do business. Do you get the idea? Because everybody will be affected. So far as there's war, do you think you will even remember to even attend case study class? By this time, you are hiding in some kiosk somewhere, right? Plenty people. We are praying, we are scared, and God will take care of us. Amen. Please, I hope that is okay. So let's look at the next point, and then we look at how we can relate. Now, the threat of government action to nationalize the industry and seize ownership of private businesses. What have they told us? That government wants to nationalize a particular industry where we are doing business. Why would government want to do that? Maybe to what? Bridge the gap, the income gap, right? Because people in that industry may be succeeding. But the thing is, so what is the implication? How does it affect our revenue, cash flows, profits, cost, going concern? Yes? How?
So this can deter investors from coming in to invest.
Okay.
Because of governments nationalizing all the industries and then private businesses.
That is true. And secondly, remember that if this is the case, then most of us will no longer be going concerns because we'll be owned by government. True or false?
Yeah, true.
3, government, those who are still owning, government interference, there'll be so much government interference, right, into our operations. And sometimes government can bring price ceilings and price floors into our activities, thereby limiting our capacity to what? to make profit. True or false? And
Yeah.
therefore, would this be a threat or opportunity for us?
A threat.
It will be a threat.
To be a threat. Okay, the next point is wars and civil unrest. How can wars and civil unrest affect us? Yes. What have they told us? That there are wars and civil unrest in the case. Why does this matter to the organization? When there are wars, people would be running and they wouldn't have time to even purchase products and services, right? But what if it is a company that is selling guns and armored cars and maybe armory? Would this be an opportunity or threat to that company?
It
will be
will be
an
an
opportunity.
opportunity.
Why?
Since there are wars and civil unrest, people would like to purchase guns and all that, so they'll be able to sell more and make profits
Okay.
as compared to the other companies that are dying out because of the wars.
Okay, that is true. You see how you are saying these things by mouth. I want you to write it like that in your exam. I hope
Okay.
that is okay. Yes, so that your answers become adequate for the man. The way the man was speaking, you could see that he was in pain. Charlie, or say so far, he hasn't seen a script, which is just 1, 2, 3 people be, but it looks like I see and there also be a certificate level 1. The way he was talking, because exemptions, no, they are going to cancel it. And I see have really stressed on this. They said people taking the exemptions is not helping. Because so far, even in my experience, I've realized that those who come straight from level 1, they are so much open, right? And they are very smart than those who take exemptions. For all you know, even the universities, they studied some of them so many years ago. Obuorie University 1990s, or still a exemption. I know a man who finished university 83. But now, wow, we discuss happening or see. Stressing and psychic. Okay, it's all good. Now, as I told you, what have you told me? Why does it matter? Are you getting it? How does it impact on your revenue, your expenses, your profits? Are you getting it? That is what I really want from my students. That's what is going to set you apart from the bunch. Are you getting it? So we are going to play some games. Okay, when I like playing games. We are going to play some games. I'm going to teach you how to answer all these things, how to actually use them, okay, to benefit. Are we okay? Now, when you know them like this, when we are, solving questions, it's not going to be headaches for us. Are we okay? Then I think I gave you a bunch of cases, right? So we can. I hope by now you've printed it. You've printed them out.
Yes, we have.
And have you been going through?
I have. Sorry.
Have you been going through them?
Not really.
Hey, you have printed it, but you're not going through it. Why?
We'll go through.
Try one.
Oh, I just looked at the one we did. Mr. Nyame. Nyame.
Okay. No, try back. See, you see, the reason why I give you cases with no questions is to make it look like a precinct, okay? So that you can create your own questions under it. So if you're able to create your own questions and answer, imagine when the real precinct comes, you will not have a problem because you know the mind of the examiner. Do you get it? It's a trick. Okay. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Now, when it comes to all these things, right? I know you know most of the PESTEL factors, but there are 3 things that I tell students they are related. Sometimes you are confused where to put them. If there's, let's say, there's a change in VAT law, change in VAT law, increasing VAT, I get it, increasing VAT to a marginal rate of 28%. Where will we put this?
Political.
Why political? Because it's a government policy.
It's a government policy, yeah.
Somebody also say economic. Increase in VAT is going to affect economic activity. True or false?
True.
True. Yes,
True.
because increase in VAT is going to change prices, right? Somebody also say it's legal. True or false? Because VAT law, it is law.
Yeah,
Mebuana.
yeah, it's true.
True.
Which it doesn't matter where you put it, but your ability to tell us what is happening and why it matters to the organization and the implication. Do you understand? If you're able
Yes.
to tell us,
Yes, please.
it doesn't matter whether you categorize it or not, but you will get the marks that you require. You get it? So students are found of listing factors which we don't want. Don't list, explain, chip in numbers. Make sense? I hope when it comes to PESTEL, you know all the factors that go under PESTEL. I know you know them, right? But as
Yes.
to how to answer questions is the problem. True or false?
Yeah, true.
So, you know, if I ask you right now what goes into social cultural, you know, right? Income distribution, lifestyle changes, education level, anything to do with people and culture, right? Economic, you know. But sometimes how to put them is the problem. So let's look at it. How do you apply PESTEL in the exam? This is my own model, my own approach. You must ask yourself the following questions regarding the case, which I told you, right? What have you told me? Why does it matter? Does it increase or decrease profit or revenue or increase cost, cash flows, whatever, right? Is there any movement on the financial statement if it is given? Are there any potential implications in the future for the organization? Is there an opportunity or threat? Didn't we learn this just now?
Yes.
So, tackling PESTEL questions. I'm just going to give you an idea. GGOH is a luxury hotel in Ghana. Okay, the company's key customers are foreigners and a few local companies. Illegal miners or the galamsey operators lodge at the hotel often and contribute, let me add, and contribute largely to the company's revenue. Now, the environment of this company. Most villages have been damaged because of the illegal mining activities. Government is devising a policy to clamp down the harmful effect of illegal mining on the communities, and exchange rates have increased by 20% during the period. Conduct a PESTEL analysis. Based on the information that has been given, what are the issues we can identify?
Mm.
The government policy is political.
How does it affect the organization? That's what I want you to talk about. Yes, we know.
The government policy to clamp down on these galamseyers means that the company is going to lose revenue because the company get a chunk of their revenue from these galamseyers. So if government is going to clamp down on these galamseyers, it means they are going to leave the area to other places. Therefore, the revenue of the company will be under threat.
Okay, Prof. So I wanted to add something small to it. So you can see from the operating profit, because of the government policies that was brought up concerning the illegal miners, the profits fell from 28 million in 2019 to 20 million in 2020.
Absolute terms. But what about the relative terms? Always, before you even talk, make sure you have calculated the relative terms first. I hope that is okay. So what's the relative terms? That'll give us one. Always calculate growth. Whether you are asked or not, always calculate growth. Is that okay? because it is what the examiner uses most of the time. So what's the revenue growth? Revenue increased by what percentage?
That's from 20, so 25%.
Okay. Revenue increased by 25%, right? In relative terms. In absolute terms, it increased by 20,000 also. Ghana cedi.
Yeah.
What about profit?
Profits fell.
It met a decline, right? So 20
Yeah.
over 28 minus 1. And that's what percentage?
Yeah, 28.57.
Okay, so there was a fall of 28 point what?
57%.
57% in
Yeah.
relative terms. Absolute terms, it fell by 8,000 also.
8. Yes.
8,000.
That means there was an increase in costs. Meboa.
Yeah.
So what from the case tells us there's been an increase in cost? What from the case can we say caused the increase in the cost?
Increase in exchange rates.
Increase in exchange rate. So the reduction in profit could have been an increase in cost because we accept foreigners, right? And there's been foreign exchange fluctuations. So this may be what has increased the cost. An increase in cost will reduce profit, right? Reduction in profit, what does it cost? Try to opportunities. Is it right? You get the idea. So this is how I want you to answer the question. I like the way you guys were chipping in the numbers, right? Overall profit has seen a reduction, and this is as a result of government what clamping down on mining activity. That is good. So this is the approach I would want my students to take. You ask yourself, what have you told me? That government is devising a policy to clamp down on illegal mining activities, right? Why does this matter? Because clamping down mining activities will prevent destruction of communities and water bodies. Fine. But on the other hand, since the company's key customers are these illegal miners, this could make GGOH lose existing customers and potential ones as well, because occupancy rate of the hotel would be affected significantly. Does that make sense? Is it a good answer?
Yes.
Does this increase or decrease revenue? Due to the loss of existing and potential customers, the hotel's revenue might decrease, and this will affect its ability to generate sufficient cash flows to meet its objectives. This is therefore a threat to the company's ability to generate cash flows. Now, if you have thought about this, when you put it into a nice paragraph, look at how it looks like. You wouldn't talk plenty, but you make sense. True or false? Government devising policy to clamp down illegal mining activities will prevent destruction of communities and water bodies. On the other hand, since the company's key customers are these illegal miners, this could make GGOH lose existing customers and potential ones as well. Due to the loss of existing and potential customers, the hotel's revenue might decrease, and this will affect its ability to generate sufficient cash flows to meet its business objectives. This is a threat to the company's ability to generate cash flows. Does that make sense? What note did I add? Note. What note did I add? Please read for me. I want it to stick. What note did I write?
Note, don't write too much, but always identify factors, implications, opportunities, and threats.
That is all. Are we okay? So it's not about political, government policy to clamp down. That's what students do, political. Then they list about 10. Nobody wants that. We want why. The why. Why is that important? Why is an accountant concerned about environmental activities? Because he wants to know how it is going to impact profit or cash flows. Makes sense. I hope we won't make the same mistake when it comes to PESTEL.
No, we won't.
So we can take.
Sir,
Yes,
Prof.
Yes.
So in this case, if the examiner had not added the financials to the question,
yes,
what would have been the preferred answer?
Oh, you see this one, I didn't even talk about the financials. I didn't include any numbers. So you just talk about the impact on the cost or revenue. That's all.
Okay.
Even without any figures. If figures were there, they say, as per my calculations in the appendix, are you getting it? This is the reason why revenue fell by this percentage. But if there's no numbers, you just talk, right? That it might reduce revenue or reduce profits, right?
All right.
Increase profits or cash flows. Makes sense.
Yes, please.
Remember, PESTEL factors, okay, can be used in 3 ways in your exam. What did I say? 1, it can be used as environmental analysis, right? 2, environmental analytical what? 2, okay? 2, you can use PESTEL analysis to identify business risks. Please, are you all listening? So if you go
Yes.
to the exam and they say identify risks that the company is facing, you can still use PESTEL because this isn't a risk to the organization. Is this not?
Yeah.
Every threat is a risk, remember. 3, it can be used to identify change, triggers of change, okay? So remember, this thing that government has done is a trigger of change, true or false? Because it can make the organization lose all its foreign customers. So that will require the organization to change its policy quickly, true or false?
Yes.
So when you are looking at PESTEL, don't just look at it for environmental analysis, right? Look at it from all. When you get to risk management, we'll use PESTEL to identify risk. When we get to change management, we'll use PESTEL to identify drivers of change or triggers of change. Are we okay? So when you know it like this, I think you should be fine. Makes sense.
Yeah.
Are you all okay?
Yes, please.
Okay. So since you are all okay, let's see if we can look at some cases and try to see if we can apply PESTEL. So let's look at oxymetal. Please, who will read for us?
I'll read.
Okay, please, I'm coming. Let me. Oh, positive. Please, let's read. Exhibit case 3.
Coxy Metal Fabricated Limited. Coxy Metal Fabricated Limited, CMF, is a metal company located at Accra. The company was incorporated as a private limited liability company in 1980 and started commercial production in 1981 with an installed capacity of 500,000 tons. The company manufactures coils, flat sheets, discs, and aluminum roofing sheets. The company was set up during Ghana's real estate construction boom when the demand for aluminum roofing sheets and aluminum-related building components exceeded demand. Within 3 years of its incorporation, CMF exceeded its installed capacity, and the company embarked on an ambitious growth strategy. In view of space limitations at its present location, the company expanded by acquiring other aluminum product manufacturing companies located at Kumasi and Takoradi. The acquired companies were often distressed with low profit and poor management. CMF invested heavily in turning around these companies to make them profitable within 3 years. By 1992, the company grew into a huge conglomerate producing additional products like louver blades, aluminum rolled form sheets, and household aluminum hollowware. In 1993, the company decided to venture into exploitation of the bauxite deposits at Chebi in a joint venture with Indian investors. The new venture was critical to CMF's survival because of the dwindling supply of raw materials from Valco, its main supplier. CMF corporate strategists felt that investment in bauxite exploration and an aluminum meter will guarantee constant supply of its raw materials for the next 30 years and provide alternative source of supply to Valco, which is likely to close down because of huge cost of energy. The new venture increased the company's labor force to 2,000, boosted its image in Ghana, and improved on its profits. By end of 1994 fiscal year, the company was judged the most profitable company in Ghana with profit after tax of over 500 billion. The company's performance was also boosted by the generally stable macro economy between 1986 to 1993 in Ghana, and a stable industry in which CMF reorganized its operations in 1997.
Please continue.
To consolidate its commanding lead in the market, CMF reorganized its operations in 1997 into a matrix structure, which gave the managers in charge of specific profit centers greater autonomy and boosted morale. The company also introduced very attractive compensation packages, which attracted Ghana's brightest young people to the company. The macroeconomy situated suddenly changed in the macroeconomy situation suddenly changed in the late 1990s when the then government policies led to a steep rise in inflation, instability in the exchange rate, and unreliable energy supplies. The situation impacted negatively on the bottom line of most companies who relied on CMF for supplies and led to severe cuts in demand for CMF products. Valco also cut supplies to the company because of the severe energy situation. CMF was forced to find alternative source of supply at a greater cost. From the year 2000, several events conspired to further threaten the position of CMF. One, there was a change in government. The new government liberalized the economy further and allowed the importation of several aluminum products into the country, especially from China and India. Two, the government imposed a development levy on all companies in the aluminum industry. This took a heavy toll on CMF's profits. Three, a large number of new breed competitors emerged on the local scene. These small wayside companies imitated CMF's products and sold thousands to customers as CMF products. Four, new rules introduced by the Customs, Excise, and Preventive Service increased the time used to clear goods from the port. This made it difficult for CMF to meet the deadlines of the major customers. Five, a new Lebanese company emerged in the industry. The new kid on the block used a computer-aided manufacturing system which produced better quality products than CMF offered. The effect of these developments was a massive fall in CMF's market share from 90% to 25%. In 2006, CMF suffered a heavy loss for the first time since its inception. Further checks on the finances of the company revealed that it was facing serious liquidity problems.
CMF was doing well. If you have before, CMF. So, my people, what issues did you identify for PESTEL? Just PESTEL. I even highlighted all the issues. Yes. Yes. PESTEL factors that we saw. You pick one, you tell us how it impacted on CMF, because we see that in later 2006, CMF is not performing well. And sometimes a PESTEL analysis is not just within the same year, it could be within a span of time. Are we okay? So within this span of time, what issues did you identify for CMF? Please, we have to look at another case. So anything you say, that's why it's a class. We are all here to struggle today and
Yeah.
get tomorrow.
I can also what I can say is that government imposing levies on the companies in the aluminium industries
Okay.
affected CMS profits because they had to pay more. Their cost went up, cost of sales went up as a result of that.
So the imposition
So
of development levy,
the
right?
imposition of development levies on the aluminium companies. Hello.
Yes, please.
Yeah.
On aluminium companies. Okay.
And
Mhm.
then then the rules introduced by SEFs, which led to the increase in time to clear goods at the port, which also affected the company because they were not able to meet deadlines to major customers. Of course, when you are not able to do that, it has its own implications because now there are competitors all over. So if I place an order and you are not able to deliver on time, I will just switch to another competitor who will be able to do it on time for me.
Okay. So that therefore is a threat, right? Yes,
Yeah.
other.
And then the new companies emerging with the using computer. The Lebanese company that came
So
up
those
using
will be
computer, they were
technology.
producing better.
So
Yeah,
those will
because
be
of technology, they were
technological
producing
factors.
better. Yeah.
Okay.
They were producing better quality aluminum products compared to CMF's products. So it made their market share go down.
Use of computer aided technology, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So that's also a threat. Okay. What else? There were a lot of factors.
Hello.
There were a lot of factors. Are these the only factors we identified? What about
No.
sociocultural? Was there anything related to sociocultural activity?
Sure.
Yes, boss.
With the coming on board of a Lebanese company which has introduced a modern or a computer aided technology, which will also come up with a modern design which will change the taste of customers.
Nice, nice. So modern design, changing
The taste of customers,
taste and preference.
yeah.
Okay, taste and preference. Okay. What about environmental and ecological factors? Aluminium systems will definitely have some carbon emissions, right?
Yes.
And waste. Not so. How does that impact the environment? You see, some things are not within the case directly, but look at the kind of entity and suggest them. Okay. And even there were some, there was some fraud in the case going on. Who can tell me where the fraud was? The imitations.
Yeah, you're right.
Yes. So these are all ecological influences. People imitating products.
Oh,
There was
but
a
sir,
change. Yes, boss.
but when you imitate somebody's product and you are caught, it's also an offense.
Yes, that's what I'm saying.
So that
The
one
imitations affected CMS product, right? Because they were selling it as CMS product and it wasn't CMS product. So you buy it and you realize it's not CMS product, you lose it. Not so, and think that CMF is not doing a good job. And also there was a change in government. Do you remember? You didn't mention it. So there are a lot of points. It's not just the identifying, but your ability to write them into good points. Are we okay? I hope by now PESTEL is becoming good. It's becoming better.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So can we try another case?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's look at Grace Telecom. Please read and let's go.
Grace Telecom Limited is a well-established company which is providing telecommunication services both nationally and internationally. Its business has been concerned with telephone calls, the provision of telephone lines and equipment, and private telecom networks. Grace Telecom has supplemented these services recently by offering mobile phone, which is an expanding market worldwide. The company maintains a diverse customer base, including residential user, multinational companies, government agencies, and public sector organizations. The company handles approximately 100,000 million calls each working day and employs nearly 140 personnel. Strategic development. The chairman of Grace stated within its latest annual report that there were 3 main areas in which the company aimed to develop in order to remain a world leader in the telecom market. He believes that the main growth areas reflect the evolving nature of the telecom market and will provide the scope for development. The areas in which development is planned are: 1. Expansion of the telecom business in the national and overseas markets, both by the company acting on its own and through partnership arrangements with other suppliers. 2. Diversification into television and multimedia services, providing the hardware to permit telephone shopping from home and broadcasting services. 3. Extension of the joint ventures and strategic alliances which have already been established with companies in West Africa. The chairman explained that the company is intent on becoming a world leader in communications. This will be achieved through maintaining its focus on long-term development by improving its services to customers, developing high-quality, up-to-date products, and being innovative, flexible, and market-driven. His aim is to deliver a world-class service at competitive costs. Financial information. The following comparative statistics show exact extracts from the company's financial performance in its national telecom market over the last 2 years. Have revenue.
So we've seen the figures. And from the figures, what can we see? I told you anytime you see figures, we first have to start looking at growth, right? So let's see.
Yeah.
Let's try to get the growth. Let's get the growth. Relative. Revenue was an increase, right? 16,613. 15,977 minus 1. So in absolute terms, how much did it change? Then relative terms. Please quickly before we move, because we'll use that to talk. What's the figure?
The difference is 636 for the revenue.
636. And
yes,
relative,
the difference.
just absolute terms. In relative terms,
3.9%.
3.98.
okay.
3.98.
Profit before interest and tax.
Increased. 3323.
3323 over 2876 minus 1.
It increased by 447.
447. Then relative.
15.54.
15.5. Then the last one, capital employed 22150 over 21,300.
Capital employed increased by 850.
850 in absolute terms. In relative terms,
3.99.
Okay. So revenue and capital employed increased in the same fashion. Okay. So profit margin, net profit margin, basically. That's net profit over sales.
Yeah.
Okay, so last year, you been saying that's 3323 divided by 16613. Not so. Then
Yeah,
previous
20%. 20.
for every 1 CD we invest, we get 20 pesos. Not so. Then last
Yeah.
that's 2876 over 15977.
18.
18.
So it increased from 18 pesos to 20 pesos, right? Meaning there was increase in
Yeah.
performance. Let's find asset turnover. Asset turnover. That is our revenue over our capital employed. Okay, so let's see. This year, 16,613, capital employed 22,150. Then last year, 15,977 over 21,300. Even you're saying
First one.
Currently,
Last year, 75.
75 times.
That's 0.75.
Yeah, that's 75%. Okay, then this one. That means for every 1 CD we invest, we generate revenue of what? 75 pesos. And this one,
75.
this one was how much?
So it's also 75.
This one too didn't change.
No,
It's also 75.
75.
Then we
Yeah.
need return on capital employed. Last year, Ebenya saying, we know return on capital employed is our profit before interest and tax over our capital employed times 100. No, so.
Yes.
Last year, Ebenya saying, that's 3323 divided by 22,150. And this one gives us 2876 over
That's
20,300.
15%.
Which one is 15?
Last year,
And this year? The previous year?
20. 876 divided by 21. 13.5.
13.5. So it was an increase. So looking at all these matrices, it tells us that the company has performed last year than the previous year. Not so? Not so.
Yes.
Okay, there's one performance
Yes.
measure which we also have to look at, which is residual income. Okay. Residual income is just our divisional profit minus the initial required investment. And our required investment is just taking our cost of capital times the investment or times our capital employed. If it is positive, it is good. If it is negative, it's bad. So looking at our last year, our profit that we made was what? 3,323 and also. And how much capital employed?
Yes, please.
We invested 22,150. But the head office wanted how much cost of capital? It is here 18%, not so. They wanted 18%.
Yeah.
So that means if they should invest in the bank, this thing tells why they should invest in our business. If the investors should invest in the bank, put all their 22,150 in the bank at 18%, what would they get? If they should put 22,150 in the bank, what would they get? 22,150 at
That's 22.
they get what? Hello? Can you hear me?
Sir,
It's like your lines are breaking. I cannot hear anything.
Hello, Paul.
Yes, madam.
We are saying that 87,987.
You get how much?
That was what he was saying.
The screen is gone. It went off, so it's gone. But how much did we get?
3987.
Okay, so this one times
3,987.
18%. You said we get 39 what?
3,987.
Okay, so this is what the head office wants from you or your investors want. And this is what you generated. Is it good or is bad? Can you meet their investment?
No.
No, you cannot, right? So it's a negative residual income of how much? So 3323 no so minus
Yes.
3987. That means they wanted 3987 from you, but you were able to generate only 3323. Meaning you didn't
Yes.
hit their target. How much?
A shortfall of 664.
664.
Meaning we did not meet, right? We couldn't meet.
Yeah.
Yes.
So it's not good. What about the previous year? We made profit of 2876, but head office wanted how much? They wanted 21,300 by 18%. Also,
Yeah, that's 3834.
3834 also. Okay.
Yes.
But we could only offer them 2876. Meaning
Yes,
there's a
please.
shortfall of how much?
958.
958. So that means
Yes.
this year they did well, right? At least they've been able to make increase a little, right?
Yes, please.
Okay. But still they didn't achieve head office target also, OTS. But they said something else. They said that the chairman expressed satisfaction with the increase in turnover and stated that cost efficiencies were now being generated following the completion of a staff reduction program. That means they reduced some staff, okay? And this would assist the company in achieving a target return of 20% return on capital employed. But you know, the last year we had 20%. Do you remember? And this year we had what? 18. Do you remember?
Yeah.
So that means return on capital employed wise, we achieved our target. Also, and this year last year we overachieved. But they said if we are able to what? Do the staff program, also it will achieve us to achieve what? A target return of 20% over the years. That means we'll maintain this. This will be maintained over the years. I get it. So you are looking at all these things to tell you how the company is performing, right? So that when we now look at the PESTEL, we can chip in the calculations that we did. You see how it makes sense. So when you go and you see financial statements, go and calculate particular ratios or changes so that when you are doing your PESTEL now, you can tell us how it is affecting the revenue, the expenses, and the things we are talking about. I hope that makes sense.
Yes, please.
Okay. So now that we know most of them, let's see if we can go. It says business opportunities. Let's read and let's see what is there.
Business opportunities. The chief executive of Grace Telecom Limited has stated that the major opportunities for the company lie in the following areas. 1. Encouraging greater use of the telephone. 2. Provision of advanced services and research and development into new technology, including the internet and system integration. 3. The increasing freedom from government control of worldwide telecommunication services. An extensive television and poster advertising campaign has been used by the company. This was in order to penetrate further the residential market segment by encouraging greater use of the telephone, with various charging incentives being offered to residential customers. To further the objective of increasing long-term shareholder value, the company is actively considering an investment of 200 million Ghana cedis in each year in new technology and quality improvement in its national market. Because of its specially technical nature, the investment is not expected to have any residual value at the end of the 3-year period. Following the investment, the directors of Grace Telecom Limited believe that its rate of profit before interest and tax to turnover in its national telecom market will remain constant. This rate will be at the same level as last year for each of the 3 years of the investment.
So what did we get for last year? They are asking of the profit before interest and tax margin. I think the screen cleared. That's our PBIT over revenue. We calculated it, right?
Yeah.
How much did we get? Because it said this rate, I get in it, will remain constant. It was 3323 over over what? Over 16613.
Yeah.
And that gives us what?
20%. 20.
This one too was 20. That means this will be maintained over the years. Okay, so we've got this. And they said there'll be an additional investment of over 200 million also. And this 200 million, is it not going to increase our capital employed?
Yeah, it is.
Assets will increase our capital employed, right? Meaning it's going to have a return on capital employed. Always be looking out for the changes in these things because they will affect your ratios. Okay, so let's look at market and competition.
The company is currently experiencing an erosion of its market share and faces increasingly strong competition in the mobile phone market. While Grace Telecom Limited is the leader in its national market with an 85% share of the telecom business, it has experienced a reduced demand for the supply of residential lines in the last 5 years as competition has increased. The market for the supply of equipment in the national telecom market is perceived to be stable. The investment of 200 million Ghana cedis in each of the next 3 years is estimated to increase Grace Telecom Limited's share of its market to a level of 95%. The full improvement of 10% is expected to be received by Grace Telecom next year, and its market share will then remain at this level for the full 3-year period. It is anticipated that unless further investment is made after the 3-year period, Grace Telecom market share will revert to its current level as a consequence of the expected competitive response. Industry regulation. The government has established an industry regulatory organization to promote competition and deter anti-competitive behavior. As a result of the activities of the regulators and aggressive pricing strategies, it is anticipated that charges to customers will remain constant for the full 3-year period of the new investment. All cash flows can be assumed to occur at the end of the year to which they relate. The cash flows and discount rates are in real terms. Future outlook. The business still remains under family control, but the board is considering an expansion program for which and that the family would need to raise 200 million Ghana cedis in equity or debt finance. One of the possible risks of expansion lies in the fact that the market for fixed telephone lines is falling. New income is being generated by expanding the product range to include mobile money transfer. The key to profit growth for Grace Telecom is the ability to generate sales growth, but the company recognizes that it faces stiff competition from large telecom companies in respect of the prices charged. In planning its future, Grace Telecom is advised to look carefully at a number of external factors which may affect the business, including government, economy, policy. In recent months, the following information has been published in respect of key economic data. 1. Bank base rate has been reduced from 22% to 20%, and the forecast is to further 0.5% reduction within 6 months. 2. The annual rate of inflation is now 12%, down from 14% in previous quarter and 16% 12 months ago. No further falls in the rate are expected over the medium term. 3. Personal and corporate tax rates are expected to remain unchanged for at least 12 months.
Okay, so that's your question, eh? Now, you see, I went a little complex than what we looked at first. So there are bits and pieces scattered all over. So the question is, what are some of the PESTEL factors that you identified with Grace Telecom, November 2015? Yes. What are some of the issues we identified? What have they told us? How does it affect our profits? Is there an opportunity or threat? That's what I need to know. Yes. What and what did we see? Yes. James, can you give us something?
So we saw that the interest rates
Okay.
that the government or the government or the policy rate has been, or the bank-based rate has been reduced from 22 to 20, and is further expected to also decrease by 0.0% within the next 6 months. So this in itself presents an opportunity for the company if they need any funds to borrow from the bank, because interest rate has reduced. Therefore, the cost of borrowing has also reduced from 22 to 20. So, and is further expected to reduce more by 5. So, if in the next 6 months they want to borrow, they have plans of borrowing, then they can wait and take advantage of further reduction of 0.5% reduction in the base rate. That's an opportunity.
Okay. Any other?
And additionally, the annual rate of inflation is now 12% from the previous year of 14. So in previous quarter and 16 in, so definitely the inflation rate is now better as compared to the previous quarter.
So you could say decrease in inflation, right? I told you support it with the data we computed. Not so. Inflation, so I could say inflation has what? Or inflation rate has seen a decrease, not so,
Yes.
from 14%, not so, in the previous quarter, not so,
Yes.
to 12%, not so.
Yes.
And this has led to the increase in the what? The net profit margin, not so,
Yes.
from 18% to 20% in the current year, not so.
Yes.
Not so.
Yes, please.
The reduction may have what? May have reduced costs, may have reduced operating costs, and thus the increase in performance for Grace Telecom, not so?
Yes.
This is therefore an opportunity to increase business profits. Does the point not make sense?
It makes.
That's why I said calculate the ratios and merge your point you have identified together with the ratio computations and the growth, revenue growth. Somebody can also say what revenue growth. It depends, right? So look at it. So if personal and corporate tax rates haven't changed, that means employee costs will stay the same or not change so much, right? So you talk
Yes.
about it. That is why profit have increased because employee costs haven't changed. Do you get it? So I want you to be saying these same things. So I'm giving you